Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Ming Chi Ko. Today I'm going to talk about the flying models, and it will be a great journey for the first lesson that I will be presenting. And it's Aviation 430, and today's date is 20 of January 2025. The first week of the lesson. Let's do it. For this plan that I will be utilizing is Seminole Piper 44 G1000 multi-engine, two passenger and one pilot in command, and it is a 740 nautical mile flight, and it's a glass cockpit Garmin G1000, and I will be making a decision on flying from DFW to MP Minneapolis. Total distance is 740 nautical mile, and there's going to be a different airspace that we will be flying through and different weather condition that we will be visiting. And it will be a great journey because I just earned my private pilot with my multi-engine rating. And I will be taking my family, my dad and my mom, travel through this long cross-country flight with me. I'm going to talk about the SRM, the Single Pilot Crew Resource Management. I will be a pilot in command, and I just completed my private pilot with my multi-engine rated, and I got to demonstrate the flight management skill and proficiency throughout this flight as a private pilot with multi-engine rating. And I had conducted my proficiency managing multi-engine flight operation with my instructor, and I have did my proficiency with my multi-engine instructor and my IFR pilot instructor. And my goal today is making sure I maintain a high standard of safety and performance, and I also do my research on weather and possible route that are gonna be diversion, and there will be an alternate route that I will be flying to if there's any condition that wasn't met. As a pilot myself, I will be talking about I gotta be familiarized landing gear system, fuel system, electrical system, and avionics system that are totally totally different with the single engine aircraft. And I gotta be familiar with the cooling and heating and windshield operating throughout the flight airplane, control surface, and flaps and propeller. And due to this, a Piper Seminole, and it's a low wind aircraft. So when we extend the flap, it will make us drop faster if we don't put extra power. And it's gonna be totally different with the single engine aircraft that are fixed propeller. And the plane I'll be flying, it's a constant speed propeller, and our avionics system that are including G1000, and our fuel system will be fuel injected system, and our landing gear system will be retractable landing gear. Now we gotta be familiarized, and when are we gonna retract the flaps and retracting the landing gear system. So for our aircraft, US Aviation, I gotta retract the landing gear below 109, and we gotta retract the flap below 111 knots. So we memorize all this term that when we are taking off at the ground speed getting to 75 knots, that's our rotating speed. At 75 knots, we rotate and we maintain 75, and we'll drop our pitch to 82 to have a best angle of climb at 200 feet AGL of the elevation. So we will retract our landing gear, and we gotta identify and verify it before we retract the landing gear. And also we gotta make sure that our operating limitation that are within the limit. And at 300 feet before the TBA, we gotta do an en route climb. So we gotta drop our nose pitch to 105, and we gotta make sure our mixture prop is at 2500 RPM, throttle is at 25 inch, and we gotta make sure our engine are within the limit, and making sure our fuel pump is on, and we gotta verify our flap is up too, and we gotta make sure our cowl flap is required, and our landing gear lights is off, and our en route climb checklist completed. After en route checklist completed, we will go to a cruise checklist. Our cruise checklist will be make sure fully rich if it's below 5,000 feet MSO, and at the propeller we will be at 21 to 2500, and our throttle will be at 18 to 25 according to US Aviation guideline that I'm gonna rent the aircraft to. And so throughout the flight we have a incident condition that might happen due to our engine that we had to perform emergency procedure. So we gotta be familiar with our checklist on the operating engine, and we're gonna be familiar with the fire during the flight and during the start and electrical fire. What happens if there's a carburetor icing? But the aircraft that we have is fuel injector, and so we won't have a carburetor icing. But we gotta understand the propeller overspeed and single alternator failure, and how do we recover from the spin, and if our engine-driven fuel pump is failure. So let's say our aircraft have a failure due to engine failure on one engine. So we got to determine the location we at and our airspeed. So our airspeed for single engine is 88 for best glide on one engine. And it is important that we determine to see if we could restart the engine. So let's say we're doing a checklist and we determine the distance that we have to another airport, and we're doing checklists. So let's say we have one engine failure. We're gonna maintain our VYSE at 88. Make sure our mixture prop throttle is fully in, fully rich, and time to turn on our fuel pump to make sure that which engine is dead depending on our foot. If our foot on the right is dead due to the resistance on the rudder paddle, that will determine if the engine is dead. I'd say if our engine on the right side is dead, so we got right side dead engine, right side verify. So we start reducing our power on the right throttle. So we told our instructor, or talk to myself as a pilot in command, right side identify, right throttle, reduce the idle. Alright, nothing happened and there's no prop. Alright, that's determined that our right throttle is dead, right engine is dead, and there's no power going through. So we're gonna feather it so we reduce the drag if the distance to the airport is shorter. Let's say we have 5 miles towards the next airport. If our distance it's a little bit further, not further, we still are 10 miles and we are like 6,000 feet higher, we'll do a restart procedure. So we already had turned on the fuel pump. We'll try to restart the right engine and make sure our mixture is back and feather is forward, and we're gonna restart on the right side. We're gonna right side mixture in and make sure our throttle is on. So we're gonna start it and try to start it back up. If it still don't work, we're gonna feather the prop and we're gonna execute it, and we're gonna communicate with the tower, telling them that we have a failure throughout the engine, and we're gonna execute to do a landing to either forced landing or landing at the airport. It's professional and make sure it's safe. So we gotta talk about the pilot. What is our pilot decision making? So we have 4: anti-authority, impulsive, invulnerability, maho. This is 4 antidote that will help pilot to eliminating a judgment. And our aircraft maintenance, how is it? Have you complete 100 hours, 50 hours, annual inspection, AD inspection, and propeller inspection and engine inspection, plus the environment. What is the weather condition that we'll be looking at? And how is the terrain? How is the weather gonna look like? How is the turbulence? How is the flight condition gonna be like? And external pressure, your family that will be behind you, kind of being proud of yourself, and you got extra external pressure that might affect you throughout your performance. And because you're not flying as a student pilot or professional pilot, you are taking your parents that are being supported with you, and that kind of external pressure that will build on you as a pilot. And here's my reference where I get all my information from. It's FAA website. And thank you very much. You guys have a nice